The transfer portal is officially closed, but there's still 600 or so members in the portal right now. Where do we go from here? We'll find out on Hoops Cap. Welcome into the Hoops Cap Pod, powered by Big East Energy, sponsored today by the Feel Good Lab. We'll talk about how you can get 15% off on any purchase with Ryan Gresh and his team at the Feel Good Lab, big UConn fans and supporters. Okay, Bella Tomaino is with me, as always, during the week here a couple times. We've got to see how often we can get her on now before she leaves for summer break. The other thing I was going to say is, this transfer portal stuff has been crazy. There's been incredible talent that's jumped in. Everyone's asking two questions really in Hoops capital of the world. Is Alex Karaban going anywhere? Has he already made his decision? Or are we shopping for his replacement? Bella, your thoughts? Like, what's the thought on campus? Like, does anyone really like talk about this stuff on campus in terms of the Alex Karaban stuff? I know the women just won a national championship, so I think they're probably more the talk of the town. But as far as Alex goes, what's the mood on campus in that regard?
So the number one mood on campus, I think, is annoyed. They're annoyed because
really? Okay.
That's kind of what I've come to the conclusion is that's what I've heard more often than not is people are just kind of like, we just want to know. Like, they're just kind of like, how much is really going into this decision? I understand there's a lot like on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, you only get one chance at the draft, and there's a lot when it comes down to like signing bonuses, where you go, how high you go. And then sometimes, it's like, what team am I projected to go to? Is that a good fit for me? Do I go back to school? I think there's just a lot that goes into it. But yeah, I just feel like people are just not like, they're just kind of like, listen, this is kind of, I don't necessarily feel this way, but this is the word I've heard, is a little bit selfish. A little bit selfish. And again, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. The other little tip that I've heard is I'm hearing that he was in Chicago for a little bit preparing for the draft. That is what I heard as of last week. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure. I think I'm kind of in the same boat of, I'm kind of in the middle. I definitely think, okay, like, we need an answer, but also maybe him and Hurley are in talks, and Hurley's kind of just giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying, hey, you've been with us, you've sacrificed with us. You let us know when you do.
Yeah, I think your last statement is the truest one. There's nothing wrong with you're reporting how, like, what the sentiment of the masses is on campus. Like, whether that's fair, whether that's, right or wrong is not for me to say. I think for everyone has like kind of an individual thought process with this. And I think there's definitely something to your point, which is, or your reporting on this is that, look, now that players actually get paid, like real money, like not, under the table, you're going to get some kind of, kickback from, an anonymous booster or something like that. Like, it's legit. You're getting paid X amount of money. There can be a kind of an animus between the regular student and the athlete that's being a part of the university. So yeah, I think there's, even whether it's misguided or not is really not what we're talking about. I think there's definitely some like real human emotion behind just being like, I'm freaking annoyed. Like, like whether he's coming or not, like, almost like an apathy. Like, okay, if he comes, if he leaves, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But it's like, just let us know. Like, I feel like that's part of it.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say too is I think people are like, well, like, we're not going to be able to get somebody in the transfer portal, and by the time he lets us know, which isn't true. We're talking about Dan Hurley here. He's calculated. He knows. He's been around the block. Like, he's not some schmuck that's just, it's not his first rodeo, realistically. Like, he knows. He trust me. He is in talks with some kids saying, listen, we don't know 100% yet, but we want you. We're very interested in you. We're willing to give you X, Y, and Z. Just give us a little more time. Like, I promise you, it's something like that. And are those words exact? Obviously not. But I would ask you, like, what do you think, Mark? Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely due diligence on a few players. I talked about this last week about, like what's next, right? It's Darian Williams. They've had preliminary talks with in terms of, that's a guy who is a Texas Tech power forward, stretch four. He's 6'6". He's a little undersized, but he's huge. He's a 220, 230 guy. I said Grant Williams on the podcast because that's exactly who he plays like. The guy who's on the Celtics or now is on the Mavs, I believe, but he was on Tennessee. Could shoot the three, is a real positive leader. Would fill an Alex Karaban leadership role because he would come in as almost like a grad transfer. Create a little more leadership along with Malachi Smith and Silas Damari Jr. Those guys. I think the issue is there's really good talent, and so people look at the portal and they go, "Well, I want Andrei Stojakovic. I want Jameer Watkins. I want this player," and the whole idea of Alex kind of holding them hostage, it just comes from that. And so, to me, I think it's, as you said, the middle. They're definitely having daily conversations or bi-daily conversations with Alex. They understand what he's going through. And they're giving him time. Like, he's earned it. Like, he's earned, when you win 2 national championships for a team that this is the standard, you get that option. And if people don't understand that, then honestly, they can kick rocks. But like, for me, that's really what it is. The other aspect of this is, it doesn't mean that they can't offer, like, just because Alex comes back doesn't mean they're done as well. Like, I've floated that idea too. You can still get multiple guys to come in here, and you shouldn't be worried about the freshmen, decommitting before the season starts, because you're always going to choose the proven player that you have tape on versus the player that you think has the most upside. This isn't the NBA. This is college. Dan Hurley wants people to stay for multiple years. He gets that some people are one and dones. So, like, that's a big part of this as well. So I know we've kind of gone on a tangent. So, like, one of the things that I wanted to have Bella do here is, she's got the transfer portal open. One of the things that I've always done when I report on transfer portal stuff is, if I don't have someone that tells me that they're having a conversation with this player or they're looking at him, everyone that's ever watched UConn basketball knows that every coach has a type. And so, who are the Dan Hurley types? So Bella's going to throw out some names in the transfer portal right now, and I'm going to say whether I think it's a Dan Hurley type, why. If not, we'll have a quick discussion. So, Bella, hit me with a name right now that is a potential Dan Hurley type or not.
All right. First name I have for you is going to be Baba Miller. What do you think about Baba Miller?
I think Baba Miller is a late addition to the portal. I think he's 100% the type of player that Dan Hurley, Luke Murray, Kamani Young wants in this day and age. He has positional versatility. He's 6'11". He can handle the rock a little bit. He's a pretty good shooter. I think he averaged something close to 17 points a game, if I'm not wrong here. I don't have it directly in front of me, but he was a plus 4. 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe confusing it with Andre, but I knew he was double digits. However, 6'11", was a guy who played at Florida State. When you go to Florida State, they Leonard Hamilton typically would recruit guys who are big time athletes who have a ton of size and the ability to play defense because of how long you are. I don't know. It just seems like a really good. That would be I don't necessarily know if he's in contact with them, but definitely when that name hits the portal, it's got to pique your interest. If you're the type of coach that Dan Hurley is, he wants, for everybody that was like clamoring for Samson Johnson and Terrace Reed to be in the same time last year, Dan hates that. Like, it reminds him of what UConn used to be, which is like defense first, offense second. That's not who they are. They are an offensive machine, and they play decent defense. Like, that's just who UConn is now. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I agree.
Who's next?
I just wanted to say one quick comment on Baba Miller is just, UConn is tied to him. There is ties. That's not just one I threw out there. There is ties to him. And the other thing is, he shoots the 3 ball 34.2% from beyond the arc. So 6'11" shooting that. I would like that on my team. Moving over to the forward position, let's go with, what are your thoughts on Blake Harper?
I think Blake already. Oh no, he didn't commit, but he's got a list, and UConn's not on it. I think there's been some fans that have wanted Blake Harper because he's 6'8", and I think that's part of it too. Is like you start to look at the types of players that Dan Hurley's had in the past. 6'8" Alex Karaban, 6'8" Jay Stu, 6'7" Jay Ross. Like these guys all like fit a mold.
Right.
I'm not as big a fan of Blake Harper as some people are. I wish him the best, but I think he's a Dan Hurley type player. But I don't see the upside of a Baba Miller, and I don't see the toughness of a Darian Williams, and I don't see the star quality of an Andrei Stojakovic. So I'm going to pass on that one.
Next one, let's go with Aaron Bradshaw. He's listed as a forward, be 7'1".
Yeah, that is the type of player. I mentioned him in one of the first transfer portal episodes of the season because the pitch to him, if I'm Dan Hurley and staff, so the answer is yes. I think he's a Dan Hurley-esque type player. Not because he can stretch the floor, but because he can be a rim protector and he can get out and run. He's not like a 7'1", 300-pound guy. He's like 7'1", 220. And he's up and down the floor in a flash. What I think he could bring to the table is a better Yusef Singari. Hope he does really well. He's in my neck of the woods now here in North Carolina at High Point. I'll probably go watch him play at least twice next year. I think he could be that guy. And if the selling point to him is come to UConn, you can maybe almost like remake your image, because this was a guy that coming out of high school was a 5-star that people were comparing to Anthony Davis. Has not panned out that way. Come to UConn, learn in Dan Hurley's system, be coached tough, make some money. Maybe you get some minutes, maybe you don't, but there's a potential there because no one's beating down Aaron Bradshaw's door. They're just not. So right. I think it's a great. I think it would be a really great project for Dan and the staff.
I want to give you another one here, Mark.
One more, and then we'll move on.
All right, let's go with Tyler Harris from Washington, I believe it is.
I'm not as familiar with Tyler, but what I would tell you is give me his stats. I'm gonna open up my transfer portal. I was doing this without having a cheat sheet, but I may need it for Tyler. Give me his like background.
6'8", 190, yeah. Entered on April 1st, which is most of the people have entered there. He's from California. Stats wise, he's ranked 92 in the transfer portal class itself. I'm trying to find some actual like game stats on him.
No, I got it. Okay, so I think that would be a no for me because he's listed, whether this is positional size and positional versatility is aside. I think he's listed as a guard. I don't necessarily know if that's the type of player that Dan wants because at 6'8", less than 200 pounds, he's too much like Jay Ross, Jay Stu, like a Jacob Furphy, like the guys that are coming in to kind of be wing players. And I think we need guys, if you're not 6'11", like Baba Miller, you're not going to be able to play the 4. Or if you're not 230 pounds like Darian Williams, you're not going to be able to play the 4 at undersize. So, he's a decent player. Like he averaged 12 points a game for Portland, 12 points a game for Washington in 2 years. He shoots the 3 incredible, 49.5% from 3. So from that perspective, yes, he's a Dan Hurley player. He's a good rebounder, but at the guard position, I think we're just all set there.
I agree.
I think his size tricks the portal a little bit, where it's like, okay, he's 6'8", so maybe he can play a little wing. He probably can, but I think you have to have someone that's in between that 3 and 4, not the 2 and 3. So I'm going to pass on that. All right, Bella, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you about the current roster. We're going to kind of almost flip this, and we're going to kind of go one by one for a few minutes on maybe Alex's replacement is already here, like maybe or on the way, and it's really about just kind of rounding out the roster. So we're going to talk about that coming up after the break.
Big East Energy. Ryan Gresh here with the Feel Good Lab. And the same tools that we use to help elite athletes like Hassan Diarra, Nika Mule, and our very own Cam Spencer are the same things that we use to help people like you and I. People that want to optimize their overall health feel a little bit younger, or suffering from a chronic condition. And it's all about reducing inflammation, improving the nutrients in our body, and fixing our gut. And the way that we do that is not through a one-size-fits-all model. Everything is personalized. We offer products that are plant-based, natural, and help you identify the root cause. And oftentimes, we're looking at what's going into our body. So we have a food inflammation test, a gut microbiome test, so that we can treat you like an individual human that you are. And so the thing that we're the most excited about is actually connecting with you. Whether you're a UConn fan or not, please reach out, call us. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can help. Best in health.
All right, we're back on the Hoops Cap, powered by Big East Energy with Bella Tomaino and myself here, Mark Zanetto. That was the Feel Good Lab, one of our new sponsors. Go check out their products for us old guys that need help with arthritis, plantar fasciitis, any itis that you have. They probably have a remedy for it in their food inflammation test, albeit it's an investment, but man, I did one last year, and I found out some things that I was eating that you would absolutely think are healthy are causing inflammation, causing issues with your own gut, because he does it individual based on, like, he sends an at-home blood test and you send it back and you get your results. Super hands-on. It's awesome. Really good for, old guys like me. So Bella, you can maybe send that to your dad or other people in your family. I think that would be a nice opportunity for them to save some money on and find out what they need to do. So hit up Ryan in the Feel Good Lab, big UConn sponsors. Okay. All right. So as far as who's on this team now, as you mentioned early, the word is Alex is in Chicago, potentially feeling out what the draft is going to look like. I think to the point that you made earlier about the sentiment on campus, it's like, how much time do you really need on this is fair. But I also feel like on the kind of the news or journalistic side, it's like I feel that same way to a certain extent. Like, as a fan, I love Alex and he can take as much time as he wants. As a person that does a daily show, it's like, all right, man, there's only so long we can kind of talk about other people potentially replacing you, because he got a ton of information last time he was in the NBA draft combine.
Right.
You got to do X, Y, and Z. Now, maybe he's getting more. Maybe it's a total audit of last season and saying, hey, man, like, you fell short here, and this is why you're a late first round, early second round, end of second round pick. So do you think that's probably part of it? I think so. I think that's probably the real reason why he's kind of moving on potentially, and just kind of getting that, like, definitive, answer.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be. You'd imagine that goes into it. I think for me, yeah, I think you definitely have to, like, for him, like, this is a big decision because, like I said, like, you don't get that many opportunities. Like, sometimes if you look at like a Cam Spencer, if you look at like somebody like Peyton Pritchard, you know what I'm saying? Like, in the NBA, they just found the right team, the right situation. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't be good on another team. They wouldn't have worked their way up. But sometimes it's like, it just works with the coach, with where they end up. And I think that could be something for Karaban is just saying, like, hey, like, if I end up here, I know, the projections aren't exact, but like, you look at what that outlook might be for you. And if it just doesn't add up, if it doesn't, look like it's going to work out in the grand scheme of things, then I think that's what you really have to look at, because I think it's like almost the same equivalent to like a head coaching position. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get an opportunity. If things don't work out, you get a little bit of a reputation, and then people sometimes forget about you. And I think Karaban just has to be very weary of that. Like last year, I'm sure he's probably upset, like, thinking to himself, dang, like, I kind of shot myself in the foot. I didn't go, and I probably might have been in a better situation than if I had stayed. So I think it's tough. It's very tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he could come out and have a bad injury, and that could be it. There's so much that goes into this decision. There really is too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. I think people simplify it way too much, especially people that have never been in that scenario, right? All right, so but let's talk about the next year's incoming roster. The guys who stuck behind are Solo. You have Terrace, Jaden, and Jalen. Okay, so between those four, who would you consider to likely pick up the most slack if Alex decides he's going to the NBA?
It's got to be Jalen Stewart. It has to be Jalen Stewart. I fell in love with him this season, and I'm sure a lot of other people did. The one complaint I had from Dan Hurley was not playing Jay Stu enough. That was really it. I think sometimes he would try to, go back and forth between Jaden Ross and Jalen Stewart. I didn't like it at all. I think Jaden Ross honestly was a little bit too much of a loose cannon this season. I think with a lot of inconsistencies, Jaden Ross played a big part in that for UConn. I think Stewart can shoot the ball. I think he's great defensively, and I just trust him, and that's what it comes down to for me. I feel good when he's on the floor. Yeah, he's going to have his moments, but now going into his junior year, I think this offseason is going to really be focused on him just locking in, working out the kinks, and having a bigger leadership role in this team, but also making a bigger impact on the floor. I like Jalen Stewart. That's the feel for me. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the popular pick. I think whether it's a combination of Jay Stu making a big leap like Solo did this year, and Jay Ross just having a bigger impact either defensively or offensively, I think is going to be the question mark. The thing about Jay Ross coming back is I don't expect him to be the player that Dan talked about early last year, but I do love the continuity angle of them staying, because when you think about the team that they left behind, they're going to have some of the most, if not the biggest continuity. The fact that everyone's stuck around to a certain extent that played. The only player that transferred that really got any substantial minutes was Aiden Mahaney, and he was still a backup. It's not like you didn't lose any starters. You lost a big piece in Liam McNeely. You lost Samson and Hassan to eligibility, and you maybe lose Alex, but you lost 4 players, 3 of which never saw the floor. If they did, it was in mop-up duty or to kind of spell someone. Aiden didn't pan out. So you didn't lose the talent that you thought you were going to lose, potentially. I think a lot of people, myself included, bought into Jay Stu's dad saying, bye, essentially as or thank you as kind of like as a bye. But it was more of a gratitude post. And, us New Englanders or transplanted New Englanders took that as, oh shit, he's leaving. And so, hit the panic button like we typically do. And so, it is what it is, right? So he's staying. I think you're right on that. As far as production, how much more, and this is the last topic of this, how much more production do you expect out of Solo? He averaged 14 points a game, was one of the best shooters in UConn history. Do you think he makes an even bigger leap? Do you think 14 points becomes close to 20 points? Because I think if he gets more run and more opportunity, I think that's a very real possibility.
Yeah, no, I think it has to. I think when we thought about, okay, who are we going to have, beyond the arc firing away, it was Solo and Alex. And if Alex leaves, especially, I think, Solo's going to be the hot hand, the guy who you want, in the last couple seconds with the ball in their hands, trying to run the clock out and make a last second shot. Alex, again, last year, I unfortunately wasn't successful in it, but I think because of what he's done before, people trusted him a little bit more. But yeah, I think Solo is definitely going to be a way more trusted player on the team. And they're just going to kind of give him like a long leash. Let him ball.
Okay. I agree. All right. That's all we have for you today. Little mini pod for you on Big East Energy about the UConn transfer portal, where things are at. We're still kind of in that Husky hold, if you will, with Alex, and maybe we'll find out some news soon. I think the kind of the prevailing theme is next week that we'll kind of know definitively. Also, I've heard, the news that came to us pretty quickly because we have some coaches that we work with here at Big East Energy is the Mike Nardi news that he'll be joining UConn staff. Tom Moore is now officially the GM of the UConn Huskies, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that news is going to hit next week too. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll keep our ears to the grindstone. Bella's on campus somewhere in the ether here in North Carolina, and we're going to keep grinding for you. We'll talk to you guys soon. Another episode of Big East Energy in the books. Hoopscat.